What's up, Black Love fam and first time fam? Welcome to another edition of Man to Man, a part of the Black Love Podcast Network. I'm David Wazicki, General Manager of Black Love. So, all right, this brother here is one of those do it all. I can do it all if I put my mind to it types. Check it out. He's a private chef, media personality, started his career out as a celebrity wardrobe stylist. So, I got to get into all of that, connect all those dots, and I'm real excited to do it. So, without further ado, let's get into it with the one and only Seth Brundle.
What up? What up? What's going on?
What's up, brother? How we doing?
I'm doing really well. I cannot complain. Been positive, good vibes all 2022. So I'm just trying to keep that going.
Now let's keep the momentum going
Yeah,
because Lord knows after the past couple of years we we need the upswing.
absolutely, absolutely.
So before we dig in, as we normally do here on Man to Man, is hit you with the blue check certified question to make you officially certified and a part of the Man to Man.
Give me that blue check since
Uh,
Instagram won't. Give me that blue check.
oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. That Instagram thing, it's overrated anyway. It's
Yeah,
Man to Man's where it's at. So,
indeed, indeed, indeed.
so here's the question: what does masculinity mean to you?
Oh, I always love that question, and I love that question because of who I was raised by. My
Mm,
father, God bless him, is a phenomenal man. Um, He and my mother were married for 24 years. They divorced when I was 24.
wow,
And my dad's just always been a constant in my life. Hello?
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's my, yeah, my computer is doing something.
Okay,
You
but
disappeared. I'm so sorry.
no, it's
Yeah,
fine.
so
It's fine.
yeah, I love this question because of my father and being raised by such a phenomenal man. So my
Mm,
definition of masculinity is always solely based on how he raised me and what he taught me growing up, and that was masculinity, and the definition of being a man is all in how you take care of your responsibilities. It's not about your body
mm.
count. It's not about how much you can bench press or deadlift. It's not about how many niggas you can how many niggas fade you can catch, you know what I mean? Like it's not
Yeah, yeah.
about any of that. It has everything to do with, what type of person you are in your community, in society, and just in general on how you take care of your responsibilities. So one of the debates I always get into with, other cisgender straight men is, like my gay friends are more masculine than you guys. Like
Mm,
whatever twisted concept you guys have of masculinity, I don't share that. Um
yeah.
the fact that you guys think sexuality has anything to do with masculinity, I don't share in that. It's just all about the type of person you are in your community and society, and that's it. So anybody who identifies as a male, who's taking care of their responsibilities, their children, killing it at work, taking care of their mental health, that's the most masculine shit I can think of.
I love that. I love that. So one, definitely certified. You're you're in.
Thanks, Pop.
With that answer. Yeah, yeah. Number two, I think what you were touching on. So I wanna further this just a little bit more and play off of that because there's a few things you mentioned. So one, I'll just go into your response on masculinity and what your father showed you in that way. Um, one thing you were talking about was a cis male versus gay men versus whatever the case may be, and that it is not solely based on on gender. I mean, for myself, my my take, just so you know, and I probably mentioned it on previous episodes, I think we all have masculine and feminine energy within us.
Absolutely.
I think some more than others, and to your point, I think that masculine energy is what allows you to take on those responsibilities. It allows you to, you know, move in society with handling your business and things like that. Then you have the feminine energy that allows you to feel more, experience more, be more in tune. I think feminine energy is more innate. It gives you more of that intuition
Absolutely.
and get and that spiritual. Well, not to say masculine energy has nothing to do with spirituality. I think it totally does, but just in a different way. So it is interesting you bring that up, and you know, no, I've never heard two people answer this question the same way. So I'm loving this, and I hope the track record continues. But before we got on here, we were talking about your son,
Yeah.
and his name, which is dope, and the origin. So let's talk about that first, and then I just want to come back to your thoughts on, you know, what your son can take away from you and your thoughts and your vision of masculinity. But I do want to reference it because I think it's dope. Like I was telling you, I'm a huge reggae artist. I wish.
Moonlighting,
Love her.
moonlighting at night.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Look, look, look. But
You're gonna have people mad
no,
at you in the comments for that.
I didn't. I'm sure. I'm sure. Just for that one. But nah, just with all the reggae music, a lot of artists tend to shout out King Selassie, and that's your 3-year-old son's name.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the audience why you chose that name?
Yeah, so my little boy, my firstborn and my only child, his name is Selassie. My wife is half Eritrean. Her father is from East Africa. And when we started dating seriously, you know, because you always have that track of like it's bumpy, you know, you on again,
Yeah.
off again, and then you finally decide you want to be together. But when we started dating seriously, and you know, talks and thoughts of marriage started coming up, I remember she stopped me one night and she's like, you know, I got to put this out there. You know, I'm not someone, you know, who feels any type of way about taking your last name. You know, I'm more than willing to do that. You know, I love you. The only thing is, if we do indeed continue to move forward, we get married and we have children. You know, my only thing is my children have to have Habesha names. So for me, I was like, yeah, that's cool, that's fine. So we had this laundry list of, you know, Habesha names that we were considering. We didn't know the gender of my son until he was born. We kept that a secret from ourselves. It's my wife's idea, and I
Hmm.
was against it, but it ended up being like, you know, such a wonderful thing. But um,
Yeah.
you know, Selassie was always at the top of my list. And Commons B, that album came out when I was, I think, a sophomore or a junior at Morehouse. And I remember the song "The People." There was this these bars and this cadence that he had in the song that always
Yeah.
stuck with me, where he said, "I remember," or "I wonder if the spirits of Bob Marley and Holly Selassie watch me as the cops be trying to pop and lock me." And I've
Yeah.
said those bars in my head, just like every black man that loves hip hop has done, like
Yep.
throughout their lifetime.
Yep.
I've said that bar in my
Yep.
head over and over and over again for like 15 years. So when it was time to name my son, when he was born, when he was in the hospital, I think it took us. He was just baby McMullen. That's my legal last name. So he was just baby McMullen for the first 3 days after he was born, and I just kept telling my wife, "He's Selassie. He's Selassie. That's his name." And you know, she agreed to it. You know, she loved it. It technically, like, my father-in-law gave us a little pushback because it's not Eritrean,
Sure. Sure.
but it is a Habesha name, and if you meet him, you know, you'll tell he's nothing but a Selassie. So
Yeah. That's dope. That's dope. I
yeah,
appreciate you sharing that. So what do you think in terms of masculinity? So since you clearly took from your dad, are you passing that same thing down to Selassie? Are there certain things you're already trying to evoke into him? I mean, I know he's 3, but I know us as parents, we already start, you know, getting it in with our ways of being.
sure. I mean, definitely. You know, my son is wicked smart. He's wicked smart. He's a sponge. He soaks up everything.
Mm.
And one of the things my wife and I are always amazed by is the fact that he always understands context. Like, it's just mind blowing to me for a 3-year old to understand context in so many different arenas, but I have started that in, just being, fully honest, fully transparent. I think about my father a lot. I can hear him in my own voice when I'm talking to my son, whether, we're having a tender moment or whether, I just need to raise my voice and have that dad voice and,
Yeah,
discipline him or whatever the
yeah.
case is. But there are a couple instances specifically that I'm thinking of right now where I have, invoked the spirit of my dad and figured out what the definition of masculinity that he's always taught me, how I'm going to impart that on my son. So for instance, my brother-in-law's wife's mother, yeah.
Mother.
So
Okay,
my
I'm following.
brother-in-law,
I'm
my
following.
wife's younger brother's wife's mother. Um,
Got it.
I have a nephew, my brother-in-law's son, who's only 4 months younger than my son. So when they were initially born, she would buy them both like the same gifts, and one of them was a doll. So he has,
Hmm.
an African American, brown skin, dark skin baby doll, just like his cousin got. And I remember, when she gave it to him, he wasn't really interested in it initially. And then maybe 6 months ago, it's just kind of been sitting in his room. And maybe
Yeah.
6 months ago, he really started taking interest in it. And it's odd because it's odd to me because of how I've been socialized my entire life, and I'm constantly having to check my own ideals and biases about sexuality and gender and all those other things. And I remember initially having that feeling when he got interested in the doll, like, what are you doing? That's a girl's toy. And immediately after, I didn't say this to him, but immediately after, just my entire dialogue, I'm like, who says that's a girl's toy? And
Right.
if,
Right.
one of the things that I'm always trying to be conscious of is calling myself something. So, if I'm an advocate, if I'm saying I'm an advocate of my gay friends, of my trans friends, of, my black women, friends, family, so on and so forth, if I'm saying I'm an advocate of anybody, what does that mean? And how am I living that, in my private life? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
am I
Yeah.
just on the
Yeah.
internet, posting rainbow flags and, being in support of, my people, or, the polar opposite. But, that was one of the first instances I remember having to check myself and reminding myself of what I was taught and what I believe in, in terms
Hmm.
of gender roles and, toys and different things like that. So it's one of his favorite, toys, along with all his Spider-Man and his PJ Masks and all that other stuff. It's almost like a companion for him because he doesn't have any
Yeah.
siblings. He doesn't
Yeah.
want any siblings, but like he sleeps with the baby. He brings the baby around with him, to play games and different things like that. And it's one of those things that makes me laugh every time I see it. Like, it's just a reminder for me to continue to check myself, and the work is
Right.
never done in that regard.
Right.
And then the other thing it would be, he's 3 years old, so crying. Um, I maybe said out loud to him a couple times, like, you're a big boy, you're not supposed to be crying. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I got to reframe that. Like,
Yeah.
again, because of how I've been socialized, that was my first response. But my dad has always taught me to go back and check myself. So I'm like, no, let me rehash that, or let me rethink that. So my thing to my son and our thing to, our son is always, there's a time and there are reasons to cry. You know what I mean? And that's totally okay. And we give you the space and opportunity to express yourself. But, us telling you you can only watch cartoons for 30 minutes, and then you agreeing to that, and then your timer going off, and then you throwing a fit, like, that's not a reason to cry. And it
That's
doesn't
not it.
have anything
Yeah.
to do with
Yeah.
gender. So um,
Yeah.
those are the first two examples that I can think of, but it's gonna be an ongoing process. Like, me and my boys always have these conversations kind of preemptively, like thinking about what type of parents we want to be. Like, what am I gonna do? What's gonna be, not what am I gonna do, but what is gonna be my response if my son comes home one day and tells me that he's gay or he's a trans woman, or you know God forbid he's a dumb athlete, or you know what I mean? Like, and no disrespect to to them, but like, I'm a comic book nerd. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I cook. I'm artsy, like, you know. So I always want him to follow in my footsteps in that regard. But you know, it's going to be an ongoing process, and I'm always going to remember my dad, you know, throughout the whole thing. So
No, it's dope. Yeah, man. I think it's interesting being a parent. So I have a daughter who turns 4 the end of this month, and these toddler years in particular, there's something very interesting because that's where you start seeing the personality form, right? That's where
yeah,
it starts to take shape. So to your point, you see him with the doll, you're like, oh, okay. And then you have these old social quote unquote norms and ideals, outdated ones at that, where you start leaning into. I think it's dope that your dad had you, had this kind of check system, for lack of a better phrase, for you to check yourself, for you to use that as kind of a trigger to say, is it, am I coming at this right? Is that the type of person I want to be? Is that the type of parent I want to be? Is that the type of man I want to be? um because I've had it with my daughter. Like, my daughter loves cars, she loves trucks, she loves uh now, thankfully, because of her height, because we are tall, me and my wife, she loves basketball.
rub it in.
But
Why don't you?
I don't know how tall you are, my man.
Average height
I don't
gang.
know.
Average height gang.
Average height gang. Okay, well, above average height gang. But listen, if you ever need me in a pickup basketball game, I'm only a call away. So
I can't hoop for shit. I cannot hoop for shit.
all right, all right. So scratch that off the list. But I'm here for you, height wise. Whatever you need, whatever you need me to go taller
Appreciate you,
with.
brother. Appreciate you.
But nevertheless, I had to take a step back. Like, I always pause. And the same thing you're doing, I didn't have that from my dad. My dad's very old school, very those social norms that we're trying to deconstruct right now and redefine. He's got all the old stuff. And so, yeah, so when she does it, and if we FaceTime, I'm like, it's cool. Like, that's cool. That's just what she gravitates towards. That's who she is.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with, she needs to have a Barbie. She needs to have a this. I don't like Barbies anyway, but she needs to have a this, down the third. It's, it's just what she gravitates towards. It's what she's learning. It's how she's coming in to being. And to your point, for us, parenting every single day is a new learning experience. There's a
Sure.
new nuance. There's a new something. And for them as well. I mean, they're just coming into their own. So we essentially have to take a step back anyway and just
Yeah, and then
understand and appreciate that.
one of the things that I love about being a parent too is like the process of relearning for us. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like one of the
it's
things, like
huge,
when you
huge.
hear these arguments about you know, gender norms and sexuality and all this other stuff, on one side, one of the arguments, you know, that we hear time and time again, and you kind of spoke to a second ago, was these societal constructs that we've you know
Yeah,
created. And then you have the other side arguing against that. So you have you and I as parents in the middle trying to figure out what it is that we believe and how we're going to run our households. And then I have my son in front of me who, you know, has this doll baby, has his, you know, marble toys and different things like that. And one of the interesting phenomenons about watching him play with the doll is that he doesn't like, and just like the argument on the left says, my son doesn't understand gender. He doesn't understand pronouns. He's not preoccupied with,
right.
you know, sexuality. The doll has no gender to him. He interchanges he, she, they all the time, constantly, within the same
Yeah,
30-minute, you know,
yeah,
time period or
exactly.
whatever
Yep,
the case
yep.
is. Like he never he doesn't understand that. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting thing about parenthood to kind of like take away and having learned, you know, from him in this in only 3 years. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that this
yeah,
is correct. This is that does have merit. You know, that's absolutely true. Like it's not the kids, it's us, you know, like teaching children about gender fluidity and, you know, gender identity and all those things is not going to be harmful to them at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they don't have
Right.
these same constructs as we do. So I love that aspect of parenthood.
Yeah, I think it was the biggest revelation to me. Now there's the phrase conscious parenting, and there are those who subscribe to it, those who do not. I do, and I think for me, like the heart of it is being more aware. To your point, it's like you check yourself before you check them, because they are in essence, I mean, they are our teachers, as we support, we give them, set healthy boundaries, I hope, as best as we can. We try to unlearn what we've learned in our past, the negative, and like you said, relearn in this way. But to me, just that phrase is just being more aware of the actions that we're doing, and trying
Totally.
to right the wrongs of our past, our history, and even today. I mean, today there's just so much change, so much unearthing of all the wrongs and the things we just covered and we took for granted, or we or we made a little bit worse. So I
Yeah.
think we've all we've all been part of that dynamic in some way. I mean, I can look back how I was raised and what I thought I was supposed to do, and you touched on that just when we talked about masculinity, and what I was supposed to be doing and what was supposed to make me a man. And now I look back, I laugh, and I'm like, I wish had I been able to mature and get to that point sooner. Man, what a different, easier I think, and more fulfilled life I would have had, because I wouldn't have had all these pressures that I didn't even care about. Like, it wasn't,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't necessary having to waste your whole day trying to, as a cis man, trying to, chase women and get the numbers and this and that, and come back to your boys and be like, yeah, see, told you, see. And
And
that's what
that
my
so
worth,
that's
that's my
you're
worth.
touching on something that like I'm constantly having this conversation too. And
Mm,
having one of those realization having that same realization as an adult, you know,
yeah.
that there's a performance of masculinity for
Oh my God. Yeah.
for most cis straight men. There's a performance of masculinity for other men, and
Yes.
these same men
Yes.
hate gay men. it it's just it's such a it
It's a,
it's such a
what do I call it?
complex it's such a complex construct
Yeah.
in that way where like in having that realization myself. And I love to fuck with people, like especially like you know dickhead, bonehead, like hyper masculine dudes or whatever, where I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
doing this for other men's approval. Like
Right.
don't try to
Right.
deviate and don't try to convince me that you're doing this for the love and affection of women, because you really and truly don't even like women. You don't like women. You like to have sex with them, and a lot of y'all like to just have sex with them to run and tell other men about. You don't even enjoy the
Mm,
act.
mm,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Mm,
and
yeah. That's
that's
good.
a powerful revelation too that I've had as an adult. Not in middle school, not in high school, not in college anymore, and really figuring out like what matters to me and whose opinions matter to me. And I'm not performing for no other niggas.
Right.
I don't care. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't pay
Yeah.
my bills, it doesn't benefit me, it doesn't make me smarter, it doesn't make me better. It just it's not something that I want to participate in. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. No,
you know,
it's wild, right? It's
hopefully,
wild when you,
nobody's done growing,
yeah.
you know?
Well, yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, for me, that's like the biggest, that phrase, change is the only constant in life. I always hope. So to your point of what you just said, for me, I always hope the change is on you, and you're not waiting for the change to happen to you. Because if you wait for the
Absolutely.
change to happen to you, it's a lot tougher to swallow. It's a lot harder to navigate this life. But if you take it upon yourself, like you said, never not learning as a parent, as a man, as a husband, as a friend, as a whatever in life, that's what's going to make this life more enjoyable. That's what's going to
Yeah.
make it more fruitful. um yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. We could
I'm
talk
just
about
trying
that
to think. It was like,
all
yeah,
day. All day.
yeah, but it's wild. I mean, there were even yeah, we're gonna table it. I think I want to bring this back. I feel like already at this stage of the conversation, we're gonna have to do a part two, because there's still a lot I want to dig into.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It gets deep.
let's
It gets deep.
it is. I'm thinking there's a couple books out there I want to like get your feedback on, but let's do this. Let's say we're gonna do a part two right now.
I'm
We're
down.
not done with the conversation yet, but here
I'm
it
down.
is.
You know where to
So
find me. Just let me know. Let me know.
that's what's up. That's what's up. But I also want to touch on and just make a hard pivot. There's no smooth pivot to this one, but
Let's do it.
just dig in, just dig in a little bit, career wise, because I want to. There's a few things here that I want to dig into around just your pivots and how you navigated. And I'll just start from a wardrobe stylist
Hmm.
to what you're doing now as a chef and media person, mostly as a chef. I'm very intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by all of it, to be honest with you, because I love style. I actually thought at one point, I was like, styling. That's pretty dope. I think I can get with that. Now, of course, we already started talking about gender norms and things like that. So, I'm just gonna say it. Typically, that's it's stereotypically, let me put
Hmm.
it and phrase it better. Stereotypically, it's more, for men, they're gay in that scenario, and
Hmm.
it's a women's style, type of profession, and this and that. And I feel, let me just quick 30 seconds here. With my background, I was always veering towards something creative. Like I, was an artist. I had a
Same.
camera in my hand, and I was like, I just got to create. I got to do something creative. So I fashion, love music, love cooking, love design, all of that. So I was like, I'm all in. So that's why, as a stylist, I was like, oh, that's dope. Interior design, that's dope. Both of those industries supposed to be gay men, and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be
Stereotypically,
women,
yeah.
and in terms of, yeah, stereotypically, right? And in terms of, so then I had to be like, damn, okay, to your point, let me check myself. But it became a little harder because it did become difficult to come across, more cis men, that straight men that were in the game, and it was like harder and harder to find. And then I find them, and I can count on one hand in both of those industries, and then other
Yeah.
industries. And but then it's like, once you're in, then you realize everybody, if you're creative, let's just jump in, let's just get into it. And I
Yeah.
think with the reverse, where you look at society, where a lot of things have been for the longest time controlled by cis straight white men, in
Yeah.
that case. So for us to break barriers in those ways, I think it's the same thing. I'm not saying breaking barriers in this case in the opposite way, but I think it's just defying, again. I think that's kind of like the theme of everything we're talking about here, which I love, is defying the norms, or what's considered the norms, or what's considered the old norms. But nevertheless, back to the question at hand. How did you become a stylist?
So my journey, I always when I get asked that question, because I get asked that question in every single interview that I do, I always tell people my career journey is a lot like that meme, where it's like what people think your career track is supposed to look like, and it's a straight
Mm,
line, and it's like what your career
yeah.
track actually looks like, and it's like all these squiggles all over the page. So the
Yeah. Yeah.
latter is definitely reflective of my career journey. So kind of like you, like I've always been a creative. I've always been into fashion. Went to have taken design classes like my entire life. When I was in high school, I would go to night school. After college, I went to El Camino and did classes up there. So it's always been a part of me, and I've always cooked. I've always,
Mm,
been an artist. So I've always drawn, and I've always read comic books and things like that. And I played a little sports when I was growing up, but I was never really interested. And again, like, just shout out to my parents, like my dad for being
mm,
who he is, and he was, and the same thing with my mom. They were the yin and yang to the perfect circle of like parenthood as far as I'm concerned, and how I was raised. So like as far as
yeah.
fashion goes, because of my dad and because of men like Carl Jones of Cross Colors,
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
men
Yeah.
like Damon John of FUBU,
There you go.
and his
I thought
partners
that
and
was
different things
FUBU.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they did their relaunch or whatever. So I bought a bunch of stuff on their website. Damon, if you
Dope.
happen to see this for whatever reason, send me a bunch of stuff, please and thank you. Um, but because for me, because I've always seen cis straight black men in this space my entire life, I didn't necessarily think it was an odd thing. Like, shout out to my mom. Like, I don't. Were you born and raised in LA?
Nah, I was born and raised in New York. I've been in LA for about 3 years now.
So you probably have the same experience that I did growing up. So like when I was growing up and Cross Colors first came out, there wasn't like,
Mm.
how Cross Colors is in Nordstrom now, and those like premium end
Yeah.
caps, and it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
every time I go in
Yeah.
there, I'm like, shout out to Carl, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
But when I
Yeah.
was growing up and Cross Colors was hot, when you had this first like run of these urban streetwear brands, they weren't in boutiques, they weren't in retail, they used to
Not at
open up
all.
at like random warehouses and you would have to know. So like my mom would
Yep.
find out about these cross color drops or whatever. She would tell me and my brothers like, hey, there's one Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. There's one Saturday at 3 in the afternoon, whatever it is, dress comfortably, go in there, get what you want, and head to this corner over there. Don't talk to anybody, don't let anybody
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
distract you. Like it was like a game.
Yeah. Oh, I
So
know.
that
Yeah.
was where my love of fashion first developed through seeing those men and seeing myself in those men, and then being a mama's boy. My mom, God bless her, she passed away about 4 months ago, but my mom was
Sorry.
super stylish woman, very classy woman. Any extra money that she had was spent on jewelry or a dress or something beautiful that she could express herself with. So that was one of her and my common bond. And then I had my dad, who was always supporting whatever it was that I was interested in. I'm telling my dad in 6th grade that I want to be a designer, and I don't have this man looking at me like, why don't you pick up a football, why don't you pick
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
he was like, that's
That's
great.
dope.
He's looking at my
Yeah.
sketches. Oh, when can we get this made? Like my dad's always been that type of person. So even though we have like these societal constructs of, who stereotypically does what, and
Mm,
that was in the back of my head, it didn't necessarily stop me. I think practicality got in the way initially. Kind of like you were saying, like if you were older, wiser, more mature, you would have done things differently at different, earlier stages in your life. And for me, it's the same thing with styling. I think the only, the stereotypes didn't hold me back. It was the practicality. So it was, okay, I have this marketing degree from Morehouse. I've had this amazing internship at Mattel. I have these job
mm,
offers from these amazing, marketing and PR agencies in LA. I don't really know how to get into styling. I don't really know any professional stylists, but I have an immediate paycheck in front of me right here. So it took me, I think, 2 or 3 years after undergrad and working in PR and marketing to really be honest with myself about what I wanted to do. And it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I can move back in with my mom. I have my car is paid off. I've met a couple stylists that I can assist and kind of learn the ropes. I'm quitting my
Mm.
job and I'm going for it. And that's kind of been my career track ever since. So I started off as a stylist. My friend Monique Scott, rest in peace. I had a rough year last year. My friend Monique passed away earlier last year. She was an incredible stylist who went by Kitty Fontaine. She
Mm.
was
Okay.
when I started working with her, she was working on television pilots, and she was Faith Evans' stylist at the time. So got to work with Faith Evans alive. God bless her. She's an amazing human being, an amazing artist, and such a gracious, down to earth person. So I got to assist her with Faith Evans and like a lot of the one off jobs that she was doing. And then around the time where I was transitioning and breaking out onto my own and doing my own project, she became Kendrick Lamar's first stylist. So,
Wow. Wow.
he and her just, took off together. And then she was having some mental health issues, so they had to let her go. But I got my foot in the door in styling through my friend Monique. And, that was a wonderful experience assisting her for 6 months and then branching out on my own. So, I had a great career. I worked with Tiana Taylor and Chris Brown and my friends Amber Riley and Issa Rae and a bunch of
Nice.
other projects. I mostly did editorial and music videos, worked with Murs, real hip hop heads. So that was great.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, and I did that for about 6 years until I got burnt out with it. Like any
I see.
career in
I see.
entertainment, especially when you work in a service capacity, it
Mm.
has its ebbs and its flows, and it just wasn't. There was too much ebb for me, and then on top
Mm.
of that, I was getting closer to 30, so I was dealing with, young rappers and singers with attitudes and egos and who will request
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
thing one day and then the next day when I show up with it, they acted like they didn't know what I was talking about. And luckily around that time, like I said, like because of my mom and my grandmother, I've always cooked and I've always enjoyed it, but I never really considered it an actual career, path. And my one of my close friends, Leslie, she had a digital show on Issa Rae's YouTube network before Insecure and all those things. And she was like, I was talking to Issa, about doing more content. You and I should do a cooking show together because that was one of Leslie and I's things. We would always get together, and cook together. And I was like, it's crazy that you say that. I just pitched this idea to Issa
Mm.
for a digital show that I did on her network eventually that was called Fundamental. But I was like, yeah, that's amazing. You and I have a great dynamic. Let's do it. So we only did 6 episodes of this web series on Issa's network, and then a few months later, we got a call from the general manager at Aspire, Melissa Ingram, who's my Spellhouse sister, and she's the SVP over at Up TV now. But we got a call from her, and she was like, "Hey, love what you guys are doing on the web. Would you guys like to do, a holiday special?" We were like, "Hell yeah!" And then the conversation just kept snowballing, and then it was like, "How about we just like take Butter and Brown to, to
Mm.
television,
That's
to
right.
cable
Yeah.
television? We're
Yeah.
looking into original programming." And through that journey, it was easy because I was working with one of my closest friends. I enjoyed cooking, but through this journey in digital and network entertainment and culinary, I really figured out how passionate I am about food. And that was one of the
Mm.
things that I
Okay.
didn't realize. Like I knew I enjoyed it. It was one of those things when I was broke and I was in my 20s and I was styling. It's one of those things like, I can't really afford to, take girls out, but I can cook their panties off. You know what I mean? Like so
Yeah.
it was one of those things like I have this skill, I enjoy it, and through this journey I figured out probably by year 2 like this is something I'm actually passionate about, and I think I want to pivot myself. So that kind of
Mm.
happened where I was like kind of done with this styling thing. Don't really have the capacity for that anymore, don't really have the passion for that anymore, even though I'm passionate about fashion. I've
Sure.
focused my sights on culinary entertainment and culinary entrepreneurship. So that's I've been on that track ever since, and it's just taken me amazing places. I've had 2 network shows. I think I've had 5 web series digital shows across Issa Rae's YouTube channel, Hooray, BuzzFeed, Cocoa Butter, Complex, and a couple other ones. So it's been a great journey, and over the pandemic I kept telling myself I wasn't going to get into the culinary business,
Mm.
and I
Yeah,
ended up
yeah,
falling into it, and I love it. I
yeah.
love it. Love, love, love it. I love private chefing. I love the small intimate events that I do. I love my clients. And I started doing my pop-up restaurant series last year. I'm working on the second one um right now, but it's just been an incredible career journey. And I'm just grateful again to my dad. Shout out to my dad and my mom for just always encouraging me and letting me be me. You know what I mean? And showing up
Yeah.
as my full self all the time without any shame. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to have this journey.
See, I think that's, what you just said right there. Every single parent listening, us included, I already know that's in our DNA to do it with our respective child. But I mean, if we can provide that, the opportunities and the just the possibilities that can be created in this world within our
Yeah.
community specifically, just off the strength of that,
Boundless.
it's
Boundless.
yeah, again, quote unquote simple, but day by day, you take it day by day, step by step, and just keep reinforcing that. I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
I'm
everything.
blessed.
That's everything. Yeah.
I am really and truly blessed in that regard, because even still now, like my dad, we still have that relationship. Like we went to lunch last week, and he's just always in awe. Like my dad's like a small child almost. He's just always in awe about the things that I'm telling him I'm doing, about the things that I've accomplished, because he can never remember anything. He's like, "Wait, you did the Coming to America thing?" Oh yeah, I do. Like, Dad,
Yeah.
come on, man. But nevertheless, he's always very, very encouraging, very supportive, and I love him for that. So yeah,
Nah, man. Look, I I love him for that, and I love that there is that relationship. So that's one thing I do want to put a spotlight on right now in this conversation is that father son relationship that I feel like that's like the one of the least types of conversations that we hear in black culture is a father son relationship that's this beautiful. And I'm like geeking out because I appreciate this so much, and again it just further inspires and motivates me, and I hope it does the same for those listening, because it's possible, it's real, it happens, it
yeah,
exists. It's not, we need more of that. We need men to be more comfortable with that, with doing that, showing that, among one another, and even again, no pun intended, but man to man. Like, why can't we have photos hugging up on each other and appreciating each other when it's not the wedding? Can we do that when we're not groomsmen? Because
right,
9.5 times out of 10, that's what you see out there on the gram, right? It's
yeah,
you see all these men loving and happy and hooting and hollering, and if it's not because they're cheering their
in a
favorite team
specific
on the field,
context.
yeah, it's like, but it's usually a sporting event or the wedding. You're the
Yeah,
groomsman, the best man, or your team just won. So it's one or the other, and it's like, how many other times can it just be? Like you see all of these other beautiful photos with women where they're just galling up and they're all together, and it's like love and this and that, and for men, it's like, yeah,
I'm happy to say
yeah.
that's not one of my challenges. You know what I mean? In my groups of
Dope.
friends, like I have the best male friends on earth. I have a core group of, guy friends from high school, and I have, my best friends, my core group of friends from Morehouse, and we are still thick as thieves, still very close. We are all on the same page about emoting, about calling each other out on our shit, about, keeping one another honest. And it's one of those things that I really appreciate, because you we get older, we meet people in different circles, we have conversations, and you start to understand that what you share with your friends and family is very special and unique, and it's not necessarily something that other people get to enjoy in their circles. And I'm grateful that I'm not I'm not in Congress with anyone on an intimate level who has these like idiotic, archaic like constructs of masculinity and femininity and roles and all this other crap, man. Like and I love it too because like all of our wives, our girlfriends, our fiancés, like they've made it a point to like become friends with one another, and they all talk to each other. Outside of us, they have their little group chats. They're planning a trip for all of us this summer and different things like that. So it's a group of men that I'm very very proud to be a part of, even with like I'm an alpha, like even with my frat brothers, my one line brother that I still talk to. Like I, I I always, and I don't know if it's one of those conscious things or one of those subconscious things, but I've been blessed to always be put around people who are like-minded. You know what I'm saying? We don't
Yeah,
think the
yeah,
same, we don't think in the same ways, but we are just usually aligned on our core values and what matters. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I have
yep,
boys who
yep.
are inexplicably DC fans. I don't get it. I was raised on Marvel. I don't get those
Yeah,
tropes and
yeah.
those narratives or whatever, but
Yeah, yeah,
we're still
yeah,
aligned in the sense that we're comic book
yeah.
fans and different things like that. So I'm grateful for those friendships. For sure, for sure.
No, yeah, I love that. I love that. And keep celebrating that because again, we need to keep seeing that. So look, one last thing I like to bring up during this podcast, since it is wellness in all its forms, friendships, love, marriage, parenting, all the things, are routines or rituals that we may do. You don't have to have it, but if you have it, please share it.
Yeah,
But just wanting to understand, some folks have their morning rituals, some have their night rituals, some have something for the body, some have for the soul, some have for the mind, some have for all three. And so, with that, there's no wrong answers. But is there any consistent type of baseline to, get yourself centered or grounded or anchored,
absolutely.
whatever type of phrasing?
Absolutely. So most of the time in terms of my rituals, during the week, because we have a toddler, I'm now one of those people who rises early and goes to bed early. I'm usually up by 5, and I'm
Same.
usually like in the bed, if not sleep, by 10 every single night.
Same.
Weekends included or whatever, because my son does not care how much sleep I got. So my rituals usually consist of my son's alarm clock goes off at 7, whether he's up or not, and he knows it's time to get up when his alarm goes off. So I usually get up at 5. Um, I draw all the windows in the living room where I'm sitting now. Go to the kitchen. I brew myself a very large cup because I'm a coffee fanatic. Like I usually have 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day. So I brew my first cup of coffee in my Keurig. There's this butterscotch toffee coffee that I really like, Colombian coffee.
Oof.
Brew
Okay.
that. Sit by the window. My wife calls me an old man because I'll just look out of the window and like surveil the neighborhood
Yeah.
for like
Yeah.
for like
Yeah.
30 minutes and just get centered most of the time. Can't stand him as a human being, but like this is one of those areas where you separate the man from the word. But like I get Joel Osteen's like daily word. Can't stand him as a human
Okay.
being, but the
Sure.
word is the word, no matter who the
The word
messenger
is the
is. So
word. For sure.
usually read my word. That's usually my first 30 minutes when I wake up, and then hop on my Peloton. One of the things I'm always grateful for, and I always joke, like I'm fat, but I'm active. I'm a healthy person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I usually do an hour on my Peloton, like five to 6 days a week,
Dope.
before my wife and my son get up, and then there's usually about 30 minutes left. So hop in the shower, throw on some clothes, kind of look at my schedule for the day, and then it's time to get going. So
Get
that's
after it.
that's like
Okay.
my daily ritual, Monday through Friday.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you hit on the trifecta: mind, body, soul, right there.
Yeah,
You get the body moving, you get the soul moving, and you get the mind going. And that stillness by being an old man and looking out the window. that that all plays a part. I love it. Look, I love it. I'm
Yeah.
all about that.
I'm
I do.
I do it with no shame. I'm just like, I got my cup in one hand and my finger on
Yeah.
the shutters or whatever, and I'm just I'm looking out or whatever the case is. But it gives me peace, just to have that time
Well,
to myself too. You know
exactly.
what I
I
mean?
was just
Nobody's
gonna
up.
touch on that.
Yeah, friends aren't calling, emails not going off. I'm not checking any of, them that might have been sent the night before. It's just my time to get centered, with me, get
Yeah.
my head together, like you said, get my head, my mind, my body, my spirit, and all of that. And I really cherish that time. It's awesome.
No, it's golden. I'm the wake up at 5 a.m. guy too. Toddler life. Like I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. I vibe with you. I have
yeah.
those
It's
same.
pretty awesome. It was tough at
It
first, but
is
it's
though,
awesome
right?
now. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's your time, and you need that peace. You need that personal space. Again, for all those three areas. So thanks for sharing that. I want to be mindful of time. I feel like again, you're already committed to part two, so we're gonna get that squared away and figured
I'm
out.
down.
But yeah, I'm with it. I love this conversation. That's why I'm saying I'm like I got a lot to talk to you about still, but I want to be respectful of time. That'll be a cliffhanger for all the folks listening. Um, but seriously, I appreciate you, brother. I thank you for making time
Likewise.
and going man to man with me today. And is there anything besides looking out for the pop up, which I'm now going to look out for? Um, when is the next pop up due?
So
Like
April, May. April, May. I
April,
have
May.
a few
Okay,
things going
okay,
on, so I'm trying to figure out my schedule.
okay,
I'm in this pilot program that Disney launched called the Creators Lab. So there's a trip
okay.
that they
There you
planned
go.
for us that got pushed back because of Omicron. So with the timing of that and some other projects I have going on, it's looking like it's going to be like April, May. So
Okay.
I'll keep everybody posted about that. And then the only other thing, I mean, there are any producers, anybody in development watching, I'm always I've had two, like I said, I've had two network shows, a bunch of digital, so I'm always trying to pitch, always trying to sell another show. And then in terms of like my private chef services, if there's anybody out there within a specific tax bracket, because I like to work with you know, um, with people that I
Yeah,
don't have to
I know.
negotiate my
I
rates with, because I know,
Yeah, yeah.
how great my cuisine is and different things like that. If you need a private chef, hit me up. I'm easy to find. Seth Brundle on all platforms. None of my profiles are blocked. I don't have any enemies or anything I'm running from or whatever. So I'm easy to
Right.
find, man. I'm easy to find.
Easy
I'm
to
low
find.
key.
That's what's up.
I'm low
I
key. I mind
respect
my
that.
business. I drink my water, and I do my work well, and I go home. That's it.
I love that. That's what's up, brother. That's what's up. Okay, Black Love fam. He sent you to the all the socials, and kept it simple. Make sure you go send him, show him some love, hit him up as needed. And in the meantime, make sure to tell another brother, king or queen, about man to man, so we can keep these conversations going and keep building each other up. And don't forget to leave a review. This was a dope one. I'm bringing my man back for part two, so leave that review. And
Hey.
hey, and in the meantime, if there's someone you want to hear from on Man to Man, connect with me on IG at Wasicki, WASICKI. Until next week, peace, love, and what are we gonna end it
So
with? So let's bring it there. That's what's up.